In this video, we're going to learn how to make this knit twist headband. This is very easy with all knit stitches, and then we're going to do some clever seaming to give it this lovely twist. We're using some beautiful yarn, and it's super fast and easy to make. The finished headband is about 4 inches wide and has a 20-inch circumference, and it's very stretchy. So a child could definitely wear this all the way up to an adult. It does have a lot of give in it. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle. A tape measure is super helpful so you can really get the size that you need for your own head. We're going to be using a pair of straight knitting needles. These are US 13 9mm knitting needles. And then for our yarn, I'm going to be using some super bulky yarn. Now, if you're not sure about that, look at your yarn label and look for the little yarn ball with a number in it. Any yarn that has the super bulky 6 will work great for this project. I'm going to be using a yarn called Hometown by Lion Brand in the Key Largo tweed. It's kind of like a teal with some like rainbow flecks through. I thought that would be fun. It's very soft too. But we're going to be using 1 ball of the Hometown yarn. Each ball of this is 64 yards, okay? So let's get started. We're going to cast on using the long tail cast on. So start with a tail of about 18 to 24 inches. And then let me zoom in so you can see really good. We're going to wrap the yarn around our fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with one of your needles, bring up that loop, and then we're going to tighten it. This is our first stitch. Next, we're going to let the tail come towards us, and we're going to let the yarn that's attached to our yarn ball over here go away from us. Okay? And then just kind of hang your yarn up in the air like this. Now take your thumb and your index finger and come in from the back like this, and then grab it with your pinky at the bottom and kind of open it up so it looks like a diamond shape like this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle. We're going to cast on 10 stitches total. We already have 1. So then we're going to take our little diamond that we made and we're going to come up under our thumb, go around our index finger, and then come back through that thumb loop. And you can see we've picked up a stitch here. And then let go and kind of snug it up. And that's a second stitch that we've cast on. And then we're just going to repeat for the rest of the stitches. So come in with your index finger and your thumb again and open it up to make a diamond shape, holding the bottom with your pinky here. Then take your needle, come up under your thumb, go around your index finger and through, and then come through that thumb loop, picking up that loop, and then tighten it up. You want it to be snug on your needle, but not tight, because we're going to be knitting back into these stitches in a little bit. Okay, still holding our yarn the same way. That's 3. We're going to come up under, go around and through, and tighten. Around, around, through, and tighten. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. Now let's do number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So here are our stitches. We have 10 on our needle. And now what we're going to do is we're going to knit this first row, okay? So we're going to worry about this tail later. We can just kind of get it out of the way. So grab your other needle now, and what you're going to do is grab your yarn that's attached to your yarn ball, and what you're going to do is come up under that needle. Take your right needle, come up under that left needle, grab your yarn, wrap it around the bottom needle only, and then you're going to slide the bottom needle from the back to the front, catching that loop, okay? So bring it from the back to the front, and see I've caught that loop right there, and then push it off. Let's do that again. Come up under your needle, wrap the yarn around that right needle, bring your bottom needle from back to front, catching that loop, and push it off. Okay? Come up under, around, push it off. Come up under, wrap the yarn around the bottom needle, bring it from the back to the front, and push it off. Under, around, bring it to the front, push it off. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're just going to knit all the stitches on your row, Okay, we're just going to knit till we get to the end here. If you need to back up the video at any time to rewatch the cast on or rewatch some of the knit stitches that I did, feel free to do that at any time. YouTube also has a slow motion feature that you can use too if you need to see it slowed down. Okay, we're at our last stitch. And what I like to do too is just give that little tail a tug just to kind of tighten that up a little bit, because sometimes it can get a little loose on that first pass that we do. Okay, now as you notice, we've passed our work from our left needle to our right needle. So we're going to switch and we're going to put our work back in our left hand, and then we're going to just knit these rows. So you're just going to knit all the stitches of every row until your piece is starting to look like a headband, okay? So I'm going to keep going with my rows. I'm going to keep knitting all the rows until we get a little bit more length on our piece. And then when we rejoin, I'm going to give you some measurements of how long mine is. And you can kind of customize yours. Remember, we have our handy tape measure. You can measure your head, or you can just kind of hold it up to your head and see how it goes. You want it to have a nice snug fit, but not tight. You don't want it to be loose because it'll slip off, but you want it to be nice and fitted to your head, okay? We're trying to get a nice long strip that will comfortably wrap around your head. So when we rejoin, we'll have a strip, and I'm going to show you what to do next. Okay, so I've been knitting for several rows here, and I have about 20 inches on my strip here. So what we're going to do now is bind off, and binding off is really easy. It's the way to get the work off of your needle. And I just wanted to point out too, I have quite a bit of yarn here. You could definitely use some of this for another project. Okay, so what we want to do to bind off is we're going to knit a stitch, and then knit that second stitch, and then we're going to use our left needle to reach back here to this first stitch we knit, and let me just zoom in so you can see that really good. We're going to reach back with our needle into that first stitch, bring it up, over, and off of your needle, just like that, okay? Now, knit the second stitch, and we're going to do the same thing. Knit it up, over, and off of the needle. And then just keep doing that all the way across until you have just one stitch left. So remember, up, over, and off, and so forth. And you can see we've already have a little edge that has come off of our needle. Okay, coming up to the end here, I just have a few stitches left. I'm just going to lift that once again up, over, and off the needle. And then there's the last stitch. And then lift that up, over, and off. And now we have one stitch left on our needle. So what we're going to do now is just put our other needle aside, and we're going to grab our scissors, and we're going to cut a tail. Now I'm going to make my tail about 12 to 18 inches because we're going to use it to seam later. Okay, so grab your needle and just sort of pull that loop out a little bit. I like to hold my hand down here just to keep it secure so it doesn't pull out too far or anything like that. And then we're going to send our tail through that loop, and that's how we fasten off, okay? And you want to snug that down so it looks nice and neat. And then the next thing we're going to do, you can see we have our strip here. We're going to leave this long tail in place, but we're going to come down to the other end, and let's weave this in really quick just to get it out of the way. So if your ply has come apart like mine, just give it a little twist and thread your tapestry needle. And then you're just going to go into your rectangle, and I like to go in one direction like this, and also come in the other direction with my needle. And then you can grab your scissors and just give it a little bit of a snip. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is that you can do two different things for this. You can sew your edges together and it'll make like a little cylinder. Or what we're going to try doing is keep your tail in place, and we're going to take our ends and we're going to fold them. So fold one end, fold the other end. So it looks like two C shapes, okay? And then you're going to kind of bring them together and sort of interlock them like so. And then this area that we have here, this big, thick kind of sandwich that we've created, we're going to sew this together, okay? So once we have our little sandwich made here, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our tail. Remember that tail we created? We can sort of lay this carefully down off to the side. I'm going to give this a fresh cut to make this easier to thread. But what we're going to do is we're going to thread our tapestry needle and then grab our project. Once again, you want to leave a little tail on there. Grab your project, and if you need to reposition it a little, that's okay. But remember, we're doing 2 C's, and they're sort of coming in together to interlock. Make sure everything's all lined up, and then you're going to take your needle. You have your end here, so you're going to start on this end, and I'll come in a little closer. There we go. And you're just going to go through all 4 layers. I know it's quite a bit of bulk to sew, but it's going to look really cute when we're finished. So we're going to we're doing a whip stitch, and all that is like, it's kind of like a spiral through your work. And we're using the tail, so it'll be very invisible when we're done. Okay? So we're just going through all 4 layers, and just take your time. It's very thick. There's lots of layers to get through. And you want to make sure you go through all 4 of them. You can even check. You can go 1, 2, 3, and 4 just to make sure you're getting them all. Just like that, all the way to the end. Okay, and then when you get to the end, you're going to go make that last stitch and pull it almost all the way through till you have a little loop at the end there. Send it through the loop and pull tight. Now I like to do that one more time just because it's something that you'll be wearing and you want it to be very secure and not come apart as you wear it, okay? So then while you have that tail on your needle, what we're going to do is weave the end in. We already wove the end in back before, the other side, but we're just going to send this one through here too. So just kind of go into these back loops, because now this is inside out. We're going to turn it right side out in a minute. So stay on this side with your tail just so it stays nice and neat. And I like to go in one direction. We can come back in the other direction. That'll help lock that tail into place. And then grab your scissors and give it a little snip. So that's how you make a knit twist headband. I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest Sparkle and Splatter video updates. Thanks again.